What up? When is the NBA going to expand like Adam Silver has been saying it's going to for years now? I remember when I first heard him talking about this is probably over 5 years ago now, and he constantly would push it off and say, we're gonna look at expansion when we get a new CBA and it's in effect, and new CBA is now in effect. Players getting paid a lot of money. You got a new TV deal coming next year, end of next season. So what are we waiting for here, Adam? Like I would love more basketball to be played. And the quickest way to get that to happen is if you expand the league, which we should be doing. NFL has 32 teams. NBA should have at least 32 teams, right? It'll make the league a little bit more competitive, and it's just going to be more exciting. And I think there's a lot of markets that could use NBA teams. I know Adam Silver has talked about Las Vegas and maybe a team in Mexico City. I personally think that you should, put in more domestic teams or another team in Canada before you expand to Mexico. I just don't know how many NBA players are going to want to go play in Mexico City, especially if it's not really, a proven market yet. I think there's still more to do there to really prove to people that Mexico City can have a good NBA team and NBA players will want to be there. I just think Canada is a lot different than Mexico right now from a perspective of an NBA player, you know, living there and playing there and, wanting to be there. But the team in Vegas, I think, just like needs to happen. There's been plenty of talk about it. LeBron has come out and said that he wants to own an NBA franchise one day, and he would love to own the team in Vegas. I think Vegas just does so good with sports teams. They just love it. I mean, people in Vegas are betting on sports. They're doing a ton of stuff. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. All jokes aside, though, I mean, I think it's super important to put teams in places where there's going to be a significant fan base. I mean, the other thing to consider is if you're going to add in teams, how does that affect the conferences? I think if you're adding two teams, you should probably be adding one in the West and adding one in the East. But you can also kind of move things around. I mean, like Memphis has been in the Western Conference ever since I can remember. And I think that's probably because they were in Vancouver before, and now they just haven't changed it. But like if you look at a map, like Memphis, Tennessee is not in the western side of the country, so they should probably be in the Eastern Conference. I think New Orleans is also in the West, and that should probably also be in the Eastern Conference. So you're going to need to do some restructuring of the conferences, probably some restructuring of the divisions as well. But I think it'll be worthwhile. I think, I always wanted the Clippers to move back to San Diego because I thought that'd be a cool spot for a team. But maybe you just add another team in California, put them in San Diego. That could be cool. But I think Vegas is the one that makes the most sense. I would put one in Vegas. I think Seattle wants a team back. I think Vancouver would be a good market for a team too. I know that the Grizzlies were there and then they moved. I don't really know the whole story as to why they moved, but I think those are great markets, and I think adding more teams in Canada is gonna be good for the league, and just be good for basketball in general. The guy who invented basketball was Canadian, so let's not forget that. But yeah, like I've been watching the WNBA a little bit more too recently, and like I've always watched the WNBA like off and on. I just love basketball. I'm a basketball junkie, but especially this year, people are really hyping up, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and people aren't hyping up Asia Wilson as much as they should. Asia Wilson is a beast, and she is probably the best player in the WNBA. She is so good, and she makes the Las Vegas Aces the team that they are. But my point with this is you see how crazy they go for the Aces in Vegas. Imagine if you put an NBA team there. And that's not a knock on the WNBA. I mean, the NBA just has a bigger fan base. So I think if you put an NBA team in Las Vegas, it's going to do crazy numbers. It's going to be super successful. And you honestly might get a winning team because when you have good fan bases, players want to play in that city and they want to win. And I think NBA players, a lot of them like to be in Vegas already. So, you remember the in-season tournament where clearly Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson really wanted to be in Vegas, probably for non-basketball reasons. But nonetheless, they wanted to be in Vegas. And then they came out and they absolutely got by the Lakers. So it was interesting nonetheless. But Vegas is a great market. Vegas loves basketball. So, I think you add one in Vegas, and then maybe you add one in the Eastern Conference. Maybe you put a team somewhere where, there hasn't been an NBA team before. Maybe you put one in Kansas City. Maybe you put one in Alabama. There's a ton of possibilities, and I think this is the time to capitalize on it. Whatever team you put in the league, I think it's going to be successful. I think we're just at a point where basketball has become such a global game, and a lot of people love seeing teams basically come up from nothing and then, turn into a really good team. Like, look at the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves were bad for a long time and didn't have any sort of track record of success, and now they're, frankly going to be contenders probably for the next few years if they keep their team together and they keep Anthony Edwards. They have Rob Dillingham. If they develop him, they're going to be a really good team going forward. So that can happen with another team that enters the league by expansion. And there's probably some good players that expansion teams could get in an expansion draft if they did that today. Like, I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen Zach LaVine trade rumors, and he wouldn't be protected in an expansion draft. Like, they literally can't trade the guy. So you put him on an expansion team and just get rid of the contract, you might not get anything back, but the Bulls would probably still be happy about it. Imagine Zach LaVine just going ham on, a Las Vegas expansion team and just putting in work. That would be exciting. It'd be entertaining to watch. So, I think they just got to bite the bullet and do it. I don't really know what the fear is. I don't know if there's something that I don't know about that is holding them back from doing this, or, maybe it's a lot closer than I think it is. But I think they've been talking about it for so long, they really just got to put boots on the ground and get this stuff going, people love basketball. I love basketball. Adam Silver, do it for me. I've been waiting for an expansion draft my whole life. I was too young, I wasn't really into basketball when the last expansion draft happened, which I believe was with Charlotte. So I want to witness one, at least one. And, this is a good time. Basketball's in. Basketball's better than ever, and the league is great. So let's make it better. Put more teams in.